The NHRA, the world's largest motorsports sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 300 miles an hour and traveling the quarter mile in less than 5 seconds. Championship drag racing from the NHRA. Today, the $18 million 18-event Winston Championship Drag Racing Series moves to the beautiful Brainerd Lakes region of central Minnesota with a stop at Brainerd International Raceway. Welcome to coverage of professional competition at the 11th Annual Champion Auto Stores Nationals. Here's the way the top 5 look, with Bernstein leading Amato, Don Prudhomme close behind in 3rd, then Pat Austin 4th, and Corey McLenithan in the number 5 spot. In the first round, Ed McCulloch at the wheel of the McDonald's dragster had qualified number 9 and raced against Pat Austin, the number 8 qualifier. Austin and his Castrol car had had problems in qualifying. On one run, they went into a giant wheel stand, actually bent the chassis, had to repair it to get it ready for the final eliminations. Austin in 4th at this point in the Winston standings, needed a victory here in round number 1. But it was not to be. That flash of flame indicated a backfire through the supercharger. Ed McCulloch ran a 498 at 291 miles an hour to take the first round victory. That loss by Austin gave Corey McLenithan the opportunity to move into the number 4 spot in the Winston standing. Also in round number 1, Shelly Anderson at the wheel of the Jolly Rancher Candy's car was up against the veteran Don Prudhomme driving the Skoal Bandit. Like Austin, this first round race was all important to Don Prudhomme. 3rd in the Winston point standings. He needed a win here. Shelly Anderson's car had been running very well. She had qualified with a 499, but her driving left a little bit to be desired. The same occurred here. Prudhomme got the advantage off the starting line, but lost it when he lost traction. Anderson the winner. Here's how things looked for round number 2 of Top Fuel. Michael Brotherton raced Shelly Anderson, while Kenny Bernstein was up against Joe Amato. Talk about master of your own destiny. The man that was leading the Winston points chase coming into Brainerd was relying on the talents of his crew chief, Dale Armstrong, to keep him ahead of Amato and the rest of the pack. Meantime, Joe Amato, driving the Team Valvoline car, was not that far behind, only 276 points. His crew chief, Tim Richards, had to battle mechanical problems during qualifying. They did lay down one good pass at a 495, but slowed to a 509 in beating Tommy Johnson Jr. Bernstein had the lane choice. He had run a 495 in the first round. We were riding with both drivers during this round number 2 race, and as you saw just on the corner of your screen, Joe Amato pulled ahead when Kenny Bernstein smoked the tires. His time, again, an unimpressive 5:02. Kenny, unable to take advantage of the moment, opened the door for Joe. Michael Brotherton was up in round number 2 with the Coors Light Silver Bullet against the Jolly Rancher Candy's car, tuned by this man. This is the Frank that Shelly talked about just a few moments ago. Frank Bradley, a former Top Fuel pilot in his own right. In this race, Brotherton had the lane choice. He ran a 496 to the troubled 528 by Shelly Anderson. Mike Brotherton came to Brainerd as the most recent winner. He picked up the title in that emotion-charged moment up at Seattle. But here it was Anderson squeaking by in the finish as problems set in for Mike Brotherton. The other half of the ladder in round number 2 found Corey McLenithan up against Ed McCulloch, while Doug Herbert raced Eddie Hill. Herbert had qualified with a great 492 and beat Danielle DePorter in the first round. Meantime, Eddie Hill, the number 5 qualifier, also had a 492 in the prelims, then defeated Maurice DuPont in his first round race. The lane choice here went to Hill. He had a 5 flat in the first round, while Herbert had slowed to a 516. Herbert, with the Hugger Sportswear car, was in the near lane. The Pennzoil dragster of Eddie Hill in the far lane. Hill got the advantage off the starting line and extended his lead, running a 5:03 to take the victory. Times a bit off their qualifying pace, but again, as the heat builds up in these racetracks, the traction becomes a little bit trickier. Corey McClenathan had qualified #1 with a great 4.88, had a single in the first round. Ed McCulloch had qualified 9th at a 4.99. As we saw earlier, he beat Pat Austin with his McDonald's dragster. He had the lane choice of 4.98 to Corey Mack's troubled 5.96. He smoked the tires in his first round single. But this time it was McCulloch's turn to lose traction as Corey Mack laid down. Low elapsed time of eliminations thus far, a 4.92 at 2.87, but it was not without cost. All that smoke indicated engine problems. That did not stop the celebration, though, between Corey Mack and his crew chief, Jimmy Brock, in the shutdown area. That sets up our semifinals of Top Fuel. It will be Corey Mack against Eddie Hill, the youngster against the veteran. And the same on the other side of the ladder, Shelly Anderson against Joe Amato, and Shelly has the lane choice. On the starting line, Eddie Hill with his crew headed by Fuzzy Carter, getting ready to take advantage of this big break. A single run puts him into the finals of the Champion Auto Stores Nationals. For Hill and his Pennzoil dragster, he is the quickest car in the history of the sport. He holds the national record at 4.80 seconds. But he had only run a 5.03 in his second round victory to earn the right to advance here to the semifinals. Are moving around just a little bit as Hill goes across the finish line. Very consistent, but still off the pace that he wants. He only ran a 5.05 at 277 miles an hour. Now the big question at Brainerd is Joe Amato in a position to capitalize on the opportunity that he earned in the previous round when he laid away the points leader in the Winston Championship. All season long, Amato has had that door open for him, but he has been unable to take the lead. The question is, can he put away Shelly Anderson in the Jolly Rancher Candies car? That by no means is a given. She is running exceptionally well. No problems here, though. Joe Amato takes the win and moves into the finals and has the Winston points lead. His time, a very slow 5.13 at 276 miles an hour. He sacrifices lane choice, but advances in the Winston standings, and that's what his goal was. As we watch in replay, Shelly Anderson was laid off the starting line. Then the tires lost traction. That allowed Amato to slip ahead, and by several car lengths, he took the victory that moved him into the final round, where he will meet the man that holds the lane choice, the quickest driver in history, Eddie Hill, against Joe Amato in the finals of Top Fuel Eliminator.
Powerboat World pulls alongside in a quarter of an hour.
One question is being asked in the Joe Amato pit area: can we win another round? If we do, we have taken the title of the Champion Auto Stores Nationals, but most importantly, we have extended our lead in the Winston standings over Kenny Bernstein. That race with Eddie Hill, the finals of Top Fuel, will be coming up in just a few moments. Right now, Kurt Johnson is looking on intently. His race car, the one he tunes, is driven by Don Beverly and is owned by Kurt's dad, Warren Johnson. That's part of the brain trust of the Mopar Parts team, Mike Sullivan and David Hutchins, the co-crew chiefs on the Mopar Parts Dodge Daytona, the low qualifier driven by Scott Jeffreyon, who is looking for his first ever NHRA National Event title in Pro Stock Eliminator. 500 cubic inches. Minimum weight for these race cars, 2,350 pounds with the driver on board. They run on racing gasoline through two 4-barrel carburetors. Highly exotic machines. Matched here in the semifinals. The winner will go into the championship round. You're on board with Scott Jeffreyon. And it is a close race until at the finish line by half a car length. Jeffreyon advances 7:35 at 186. The losing time was a 7:36 at 188 miles an hour. Jeffreyon had the advantage of nearly 2/100ths of a second off the starting line. Watch the car in the far lane. On our instant replay, you can see him gain a critical few inches off the line. Then the power of the Dodge paid off as he extended that lead to nearly a half a car length by the 1/8 of a mile. Then as they streaked to the finish line at over 188 miles an hour, Don Beverly was unable to catch up with the fleeing Dodge, and Jeffrey-On heads to the finals. Johnson is already staged. The count is on Glidden. He comes into the beams, and he got a great reaction time. And as Bob proves, the Glidden era is far from over. Let the celebration begin on the starting line. The times: Glidden 7:36 at 187 miles an hour. WJ 7:32 at 188. This run was decided by Glidden's advantage off the starting line. As we see an instant replay, the Ford had a whopping lead when they passed the Christmas tree. But chipping away at that margin was WJ and the AC Delco car. The only problem was he ran out of racetrack about 5 feet too soon. Bob Glidden had 46 hundredths of a second advantage off the starting line. Warren Johnson ran 37 hundredths of a second quicker, but when you subtract them, 9 thousandths of a second, that was the margin of victory for Glidden, advancing him into the finals to race Scott Jeffrey-On. Glidden trying for his first win of the season. Jeffrey-On for his first win ever. While the reigning Winston champ may be feeling the heat just a bit, he came into this race with a substantial lead over Pedregon. Al Hoffman not that far back in third, Del Worsham is fourth, and Tom Hoover rounds out the top 5. In round number 2, we found Pedregon, the low qualifier, against Del Worsham, and Freddie Neely raced Al Hoffman. Pedregon had qualified number 1 at a 5:16 and defeated Norm Wilding in his first round race, while Del Worsham qualified in the number 8 spot. He beat Tom Hoover in round 1 and was oh so close to Pedregon in performance. His dad, Chuck Worsham, tunes that race car and does an outstanding job of it. He ran 5:35 in the first round, while Pedregon had a 5:33 in his victory over Wilding. That earned the McDonald's Oldsmobile the lane choice here in round number 2. It was an extremely close race, with Pedregon pulling it out by just about half a car length. The surprising Freddie Neely had qualified 4th at a 5:29 and defeated Paul Smith in round number 1. His crew chief is now Ronnie Swearingen. In fact, this race car was formerly campaigned by Casey Spurlock, and Swearingen was the crew chief at that time. Al Hoffman was the competition for Neely in round number 2. His blower drive service Dodge Daytona, tuned by Ronnie Swearingen's close friend, Tommy Anderson. It was a battle between 2 fine drivers and 2 superlative crew chiefs here in round number 2. In the first round, Neely had run quicker. He had a 5:36, while Hoffman had fallen off his qualifying pace, slowing to a 5:91. But here in round number 2, it was all Hoffman. His elapsed time, 5:35 and 2:76. The other side of the ladder found Whit Bazemore, the number 2 qualifier, against Chuck Etchells, while John Force raced Mark Oswald. Bazemore had surprised everyone, qualifying number 2 with a fast orange Ford Probe at a great 5:26, and he won his first round race against a tire-smoking Bruce Nielsen. But it was dreadfully expensive for the Bazemore and Evans team. The engine grenaded itself as he neared the finish line, blew the rods out of the side of a brand new block, a costly victory, and Bazemore was unable to return for round number 2. Thus, Chuck Etchells got a big break for the second round in a row. The first round competitor for the Nobody Beats the Whiz Dodge Daytona was Johnny West. He broke on the starting line. Etchells got a bye, and he ran a 5:34. Good times were hard to come by here in round number 2, though, as Etchells smoked the tires and coasted across the finish line. John Force in the Castrol Oldsmobile qualified number 3, defeated Gordon Mineo in the first round at a 5.30 second elapsed time. That gave him lane choice here in round number 2 over Mark Oswald at the wheel of the Petosa Brothers Dodge. He defeated Gary Bolger in the first round. He had qualified at a 5:45, improved to a 5:38. Austin Coyle giving the driving instructions to his driver, John Force, in this second round match. The lane choice here went to Force. He selected the lane nearest the camera, and it may have been a tactical error. It was almost a repeat of the Chuck Etchells run. Up in smoke was fourth. Oswald the winner. So Mark Oswald with his 5:33 elapsed time defeats John Force and earns himself lane choice in the semifinals against Chuck Etchells. The other side of the ladder, Cruz Pedregon continuing to apply the pressure to Force. He picks his lane over Al Hoffman. The semifinal round of Funny Car. This is the Nobody Beats the Whiz Dodge of Chuck Etchells up against the Dodge Daytona, the Petosa brothers, Mark Oswald at the wheel. Mark has run two 287-mile-an-hour runs thus far, the fastest speed of the weekend by a Funny Car. While Chuck may be concerned, he's got to have some confidence in this brand new Dodge. It qualified with a 534, ran an identical 534 in the first round, but smoked the tires in the second. If he just goes back to the previous combination, this could be quite a matchup. Etchells with a great lead. Oh, but just like last round, he goes up in smoke, and Oswald goes across the finish line. The speed, 284 miles an hour. His elapsed time, a very consistent 5:39. So Mark Oswald advances the Petosa Brothers Dodge Daytona into the championship round of the Champion Auto Stores Nationals. Here in replay, you see the car nearest the camera. That is Etchells. Boy, did he build up a big lead off the starting line. Look at the margin. But as he neared half track, that's when problems set in. The tires broke loose. Oswald stayed stuck to the asphalt and crossed the finish line with a great 5:39. Back at the starting line, our other two semifinalists backing up after their burnouts. This is Al Hoffman, the Blower Drive Service Dodge Daytona, and that is his crew chief, Tommy Anderson. This is Cruz Pedregon, the driver of the McDonald's Oldsmobile, and that is Larry Miner, the car owner, on the far side of the car walking away. Fielding two cars, one in Top Fuel and Funny Car. Ed McCulloch, the top fueler, already out, but Cruz Pedregon looking to earn more points on John Force, the leader of the Winston Chase. So is Al Hoffman. He is currently third, right behind Pedregon. So whoever wins this race is going to have a definite effect on Force's lead. The lane choice going to Pedregon. He ran a 5:32 compared to Hoffman's 5:35 in round number 2. But here in the semifinals, it's all Pedregon. Elapsed time, 5:33. Speed, 274 miles an hour. That sets the pairings for the finals of Funny Car here at Brainerd. Pedregon against Mark Oswald, and Cruz is cruising with the lane choice. His elapsed time of 5:33, Oswald a 5:39. The work going on in Cruz Pedregon's pit area, preparing the McDonald's Oldsmobile for the finals of Funny Car Eliminator. That race will be coming up in just a few moments. Right now on the starting line, it is the championship round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Scott Jeffrey on in the Mopar Parts Dodge Daytona in the far lane. He is making his fourth final round appearance of the season. For Bob Glidden at the wheel of the Motorcraft Ford Probe, it is his first final round appearance since the Le Grand National 1 year ago. For a man that has won 80 NHRA national event titles, this has been an incredibly bad year for Glidden. For Scott Jeffrey on, he is the rising star of Pro Stock, taking over the car fielded by the team that has won the Winston title for the last 2 seasons in a row. Jeffrey on has yet to win, not only this year, but any year on the NHRA trail. Both cars in the pre-stage beam. Jeffrey on now moves in. Glidden stages last, and pulls out the victory. His 81st national event title as Rusty Glidden and family continues to celebrate on the starting line. Bob Glidden wins it 7:37 to a losing 7:39. Mother and son hugging on the starting line, and you don't think this team isn't happy? Bob Glidden wins the championship here at Brainerd, and he does it with performance. He got a slight advantage off the starting line, 1/100th of a second to be exact, but as our instant replay shows you, the Ford outpowered the Dodge to the finish line. 7:37 the winning time. The losing time, a 7:39. The margin of victory, 36 thousandths of a second, half a car length.
Just like old times, Bob Glidden. Congratulations.
This is not like old times, Steve. This is tough. I'm telling you.
It's even harder than it used to be.
Bridesmaid here. This guy's been runner-up. He's done everything to win them all this year. And thank God he didn't win again today, but he did a good job.
7:37 to a 39. You outran him. You did everything right.
We just had a good day. You know, everything went our way today.
You had Etta back at the races after a bit of a vacation. That helped.
Yeah, Etta's had a lot of gum surgery this year and a lot of bone transplant. She's missed, I don't know, 5 of the last 7 races. And we had a good crew here. All the guys from the shop were here. Mark and Kelly, Bill, all the guys were here to pitch in and help, and we got a lot of work done.
Great job again.
Thanks.
Talk about a points jump. Bob Glidden's 81st victory has moved him from number 9 in the standings all the way up to number 5. Johnson continues to hold a big lead over Ekman. Jeffrey on his 3rd, and Don Beverly is number 4. This is Eddie Hill. He'll be racing Joe Amato, but that race will happen after our funny car final, which finds Mark Oswald against this car. This is the McDonald's Oldsmobile, driven by Cruz Pedregon. He has got the lane choice, has moved right back into the lane where he ran a 5:33 in the semifinal round of competition. But remember, Oswald at the wheel of the Petosa brothers car, that's Eric Petosa watching intently, has run those big speeds. 2 of them at 287 miles an hour, and then in the semifinals, admitting to dropping a cylinder or losing fire in one cylinder down the racetrack, he ran 284 to earn the right to race Pedregon in the final. Into the staging procedures, the crew chief's now out of the picture, literally and figuratively. It is all up to the driver. Up in smoke goes Oswald. And what a brilliant finish to a great race for Pedregon. His elapsed time, 5:25. His speed, 278 miles an hour. So the number 1 qualifier carried it through to the finish line of the final round. Watch again in instant replay. Oswald was making a race out of it until he got about to the halfway point. The tires struck, lost traction, smoke started billowing out of the back of the car. All the while, Pedregon kept the foot to the floor. He thundered across the finish line with low ET of eliminations, a brilliant 5:25. Pedregon getting closer to 4th. Al Hoffman remains 3rd. Del Worsham 4th, and Chuck Etchells number 5. Only 5 events remaining on this year's Winston Championship Trail, and nobody knows that more than this man, Joe Amato, at the wheel of the Team Valvoline car. Amato with his crew chief, Tim Richards, bending in front of the engine, getting ready to make his final adjustments. This is Eddie Hill, his crew chief, Fuzzy Carter, making the final injector adjustments to the Pennzoil dragster. With all of the great 480s and 490s times we have seen this weekend, it boils down to a pair of 5-second runners in the final, and the lane choice goes to the far lane, Eddie Hill. The always serious Tim Richards, maybe even a bit more so, because he knows this is the opportunity for Amato to gain even more points on Kenny Bernstein. Amato is currently in the lead in the Winston standings. Eddie Hill blows the supercharger. And Joe Amato wins the race. The 4-time Winston champion takes a big jump up in the points, adds yet another 200 to the total. The supercharger letting go right at the starting line. Ursi Hill bending in, unstrapping Eddie out of the car. They'll be assessing that damage, trying to figure out exactly what went wrong. Let's watch in replay and see if you can pick it up. The tree goes green and the supercharger goes boom. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Brainerd International Raceway.